Hi, and welcome to On Cue. My name is Tim Pick, and today we have some videos that were put together by local QHS students. To start out, our very own Eastern Nazarene College is home to a very unique major. The Theater for Social Justice major was added to the school just a few years ago and is already making an impact in the community. Gabby Popa went to speak to the program's director, Tara Brooke Watkins, to learn more.
Hi, my name's Tara Brooke Watkins, and I work at Eastern Nazarene College. I oversee the Theater for Social Justice program, and I'm the artistic director for the seasons as well in the theater program. Theater for Social Justice is the art of using theater to address injustices. I mean, that's the most basic definition, but it encompasses actually using theater techniques with people who are suffering from an injustice. So kind of going into communities that are experiencing it and bringing theater to them. It also encompasses actually producing theater about a social injustice so that you can bring awareness to audience members and try to help them change their mind and perspective on what's going on in that injustice. And then finally, it's also about bringing people who don't get to see theater to the theater, or bringing theater to them so that they can experience entertainment and fun and kind of pull them out of maybe what we can't solve by just going in. So I really believe that if we narrow down the world, right, to one community, and you bring that whole community in to see a show, you could change those hundreds of people's lives. So that means exponentially you're changing anybody they come into contact with, because as soon as you change one person's perspective on an issue, they can no longer talk to friends in the same way they've talked to friends in the past about an issue. So by changing one person, you think about that ripple effect and the exponential growth and how many other people can be changed. So on its most basic level, that's what Theater for Social Justice can do to change a community. But you can also use theater to change a community by kind of how I was explaining earlier, by using theater exercises and techniques to address community needs and truly like change the way a community operates by using theater. And so our entire curriculum, first of all, teaches them how to do it. Within that curriculum, they have to do an ethnography project on our campus. So they have to look at an injustice that they think is happening here. And we really try to teach about the system and how it's creating a problem rather than it being about people being good or bad, because we're all living within a system. So they do an ethnography project that looks at our own system at Eastern Nazarene College, and they have to name a theater exercise that would change that one little thing in the system. They also take an applied theater course, which asks them to go into a community and use theater to address those needs. I train everybody to use story circles, and they hear people's stories, and then they address whatever comes up in those story circles with theater. They also have a devising theater class, so they create original pieces out of people's stories, out of poetry, out of newspaper articles, and then they present that play back to our community. So in addition, we do one kind of published social justice piece every year, so or every other year. So they're also learning about what else is out there in the world and how other theater artists are addressing social justice issues. So we went to Father Bill's homeless shelter, Father Bill's Place in Quincy, as a part of our applied theater class. And this has been a year-long project, which will kind of in some way complete itself in February 2020. The students went there weekly to run story circles with the guests, anybody who wanted to come and share their story. And the students participated as well. So every week everybody in the circle, students and the Father Bill's guests, would share stories about when they feel like they've been stereotyped and how they've been treated, or dehumanized. That was a big word that came up a lot. We also talked about favorite memories from childhood, or people that we would like to confront or apologize to. So we united everybody in the room rather than making it about like, tell us why you're homeless and what does homelessness feel like. This was about sharing experiences and connecting to each other. So I think, I can't speak for all the students, but I think one of the things that we learned was we are really no different from anybody else that we encounter. Even if there is a label like homelessness that's put upon you, that person is so similar to the person they're sitting right across from, who might be a college student. So it was really beautiful to recognize that we all have the same experiences. Anybody could be homeless, and a lot of the fears and experiences that college students go through, like what is it going to be like to find a job, or how are you going to make enough money, or what's the dorm room situation like, or what's going to be my meal tonight, right? All of those questions the people at Father Bills are facing and the students at Eastern Nazarene College are facing, and I think that was also really enlightening to discover. So when we started this project at Father Bills, everybody knew we were going to be creating a play about anything they shared. So the first step was to be very transparent about that with anybody in the room. Anybody we interviewed Father Bills staff, we interviewed even people on our campus about what they knew about homelessness and homelessness in Quincy. So everyone knows that before you speak to us, anything you say can be used in the play. We had everybody sign off on confidentiality agreements, as well as permission agreements, basically saying whatever I've shared, you can use in the play. So they all knew this going in. So that's also part of the process. Then we form a class, and so even just this evening we had our class, and so we have what's called the TFSJ, Theater for Social Justice Project class, and every week those students are bringing in part of the script. So the first thing we did was decide what is our mission with the play, what are the themes that came up out of people's stories. We also are an advocate for Father Bills as well as the guests, so what can we do to support Father Bills? We knew early on that Father Bills is looking for funding to create a resource center here in Quincy more than a shelter. So how can we tell stories about the space within the shelter right now, and how can we advocate for a resource center? So these were all kind of themes and that came up originally in the conversation. Every week the students have been bringing in an assignment. The assignment has been anything from write a monologue in the voice of one of the guests, write a monologue in the voice of one of the staff members, write a scene that was described by one of the guests, create a movement piece that tells the story about how college students are very similar to the homeless guests at Father Bills. They had to find media pieces that showed why we create stigmas around homelessness. So we've got anything from The Simpsons to Family Guy to YouTube clips to a news story about how some college students in this country are actually homeless and their colleges don't know it. So we've got an array of pieces. So that's what we're doing right now. We actually just today started putting those pieces together to create a script, and now we're putting the meat on the bones, as I say. At the end of this semester, we will have the guests and the staff members at Father Bills join us for a reading and make sure they approve of what we've put together. And then we hold auditions in a couple weeks. So we'll use the Christmas break to do any kind of adjustments on that script, and then we come back in January and start rehearsing. The play goes up February 13th through the 15th. We would love people to come see it. It's really about, not just about guests at Father Bills, but about homelessness in Massachusetts and on the South Shore. So if you are a Quincyite, I think this play is going to be really relevant for you, and it'd be really great for you to get to know the people that we got to know at Father Bills. They're awesome.
That seems like a fantastic opportunity for students. Make sure to check out Father Bill's play this February 13th, 14th, and 15th. Shows start at 7:30 at Cove Fine Arts Center. And please consider donating a pair of new socks as part of your admission price. This next video highlights a new, interesting piece of equipment the QHS horticulture students use to grow plants without soil. Two of the interns talked to the teacher of the class to get more info.
Hi, I'm Michael Imhoff. I've been teaching at Quincy High since 2007. I currently teach biology classes and a horticulture elective. I also coach the North Quincy sailing team. Horticulture is a science elective eligible to seniors and juniors. It's a class where we try to teach a good level of plant science, but we also try to have our students leave Quincy High with as much knowledge as possible. So we learn how to grow plants from seed. We learn about small space gardening, container gardening, square foot gardening, and we also try out any new technologies such as hydroponics, aeroponics, growing plants with fish we're going to try this year, how to propagate plants from cuttings, all sorts of fun hands-on things that our kids can work with and then continue to use throughout their lives. I like working with my students, figuring out where their knowledge base is at and working with them throughout the year to develop skills. But I also get the opportunity to interact with a lot of the Quincy High community and building. I sell plants in the spring. I kind of put myself out there as the plant guy. So I like to learn from everybody what their knowledge is. People are always telling me, oh yeah, my family's always grown this, I'm really good at that, or I like this plant. And I like talking to people and learning new things from the people at Quincy High School. So this tower garden is an aeroponic garden. Aeroponic gardening is gardening with just water and not soil. And it's a little different from hydroponics because there is some part of the time in which the plants are not covered in water. So there is a base of 20 gallons of water at the bottom here. There's a tube that shoots water up on the plants from the middle. And they're uncovered and exposed to the air for 45 minutes out of every hour. And for 15 minutes, water with nutrients in it is sprayed up and submerges the roots. Aeroponics is a little different from hydroponics. In a hydroponic system, plants grow into water and their roots stay submerged in water. We had a project last year in which we grew plants in 5-gallon buckets filled with just water, and this created some pepper plants that were huge and made peppers all summer long. Again, this aeroponic system is on a timer, and water, again, covers the plants for just 15 minutes out of every hour. And the roots, if you check them out, they don't grow as deep into the water because they aren't submerged. So not a ton of root growth. Everything the plants need is delivered straight up to them, so not a lot of root growth is needed. The benefits to hydroponics and aeroponics are that you can garden with a lot less water. So instead of having to water your plants every day, they're either growing into water or water sprayed on them. And so when we look at the basin here, we have to refill it once a month, right? So we use a lot less water total than we would in a garden where we're adding new water to the plants every day. The other benefit is you can have a little more control over the nutrients and pH levels, so we could check the pH all the time with a pretty easy test. And every time we add water, we add new nutrients, so we know which nutrients we're adding and in which amounts. So everything I do in horticulture has been supported. Additional things other than the supplies given to us by the science department, but we've been able to add new things every year with help from the community. So for example, there's a community partnership grant that we could apply for as teachers. I've used that to do that hydroponic bucket project where I grew peppers. This year we're going to try to add plant propagators to help us grow more cuttings, and we're going to grow aquaculture, which is growing plants with fish. So we're always doing new things in this class. The tower gardens wouldn't be here without help from donations from people in the Quincy community. So this tower garden was donated by Andrea Ford 3 years ago. She's a parent and works with Tower Garden and just wanted to see one in a classroom and wanted students to be able to see this technology. So the 3 years we've had this, we've been able to learn how to grow plants in the Rockwool cubes, which plants work best in the garden. One thing we do know is with UV lighting, the plants are going to grow more, so we've applied for another grant to get special lights for this tower garden. And this year we've received a donation as well from Catherine and Donald Hubley. They donated a foodie system. That aeroponic garden is going to be used by a 9th grade teacher, and she's going to share that with her students. And my senior horticulture students are going to help her get it set up and share with them what we've learned in our horticulture class setting up this tower garden. So as I mentioned before, it's a lot of trial and error in here. We've learned how to grow plants from seed. You can learn how to either transfer a plant to the tower garden or grow it in the medium, these special Rockwool cubes. We've learned which type of plants grow best inside a classroom. We like kale and lettuce and Swiss chard and some herbs. And we've also learned about pH and nutrient levels and how to monitor them and keep the garden growing for several months.
And now we'll take a look at the recent 'Tis the Season concert, which featured both the Quincy Public Schools combined high school choral group and the Quincy Symphony Orchestra when they performed at Quincy High last month.
The top three, my top three favorites. Well, I'd say I like them all, but the one that the ones that I'm looking forward to are the ones that we're going to do with the John Adams Orchestra. which are the students, the string students, and also the one that we're going to do an original arrangement by Michael DeMarco, who's the band director. He's done this wonderful arrangement that we're going to do with him, the orchestra, and several of the teachers of the Quincy Public Schools. So it's called Wreath of Carols, and we're really looking forward to doing that. And then the other things are, of course, we're doing a medley with the combined choruses. They're led by Timothy Carew. So I like all the music, but I think the thing that really I enjoy most about this concert is the opportunity to work with the students and the teachers.
That's cool.
Oh my gosh, favorite song. Well, I certainly enjoy playing the holiday favorites. We have Leroy Anderson's Sleigh Ride is always a fun piece to play. And the sing-alongs, again, Leroy Anderson, the Christmas Festival, they're fun to play. But I sort of have a spot in my heart for the Bizets from Carmen, the Farandole is a wonderful piece for the clarinet. And we're doing, from Hansel and Gretel, we're doing a piece from that. And that's very enjoyable to play, some nice clarinet parts. So I think I'd have to, my heart says some of the Christmas favorites, and my brain says I love the clarinet parts on the Farandole.
There's a lot of planning that goes into a concert like this. I mean, first of all, during the summer, believe it or not, I meet with the president of the Quincy Symphony, and I and a couple of other people go down to the school department, and we meet with Keith Sagala and Janice Erler, and we talk over, what we did last year and what we might want to do this year. There's a lot of, then I have to go and choose the music, and I do that in consultation with the teachers. So there's a lot of emails, a lot of communication. What would you like to do? What would we like to do? How are we going to make it work? There's scheduling concerns because we have to bring the orchestras, the students and the orchestra and the chorus and the teachers all at the same time at one place to work together. So there's just a lot of what you might say non-musical work that goes on in the background. We're doing a piece with Dr. Di Cristofaro where he's going to be the narrator. And there too, we have to make sure that his schedule works with our schedule, things like that, And then, of course, there's all the preparation that we have to do musically to make sure that it comes together.
Well, there's a lot of practice involved. I mean, we have played these pieces before, so it's a little bit easier, but I want to make sure I'm prepared for the concert and that I sound good. But yeah, I practice a couple hours a day.
For 'Tis the Season, we started in November. Okay, so early part of November, and the Quincy Symphony meets once a week. So let's see, I think there's probably 4 or 5 rehearsals that's in total. So it's not a lot of time to put it all together. But, the players are very of a high level, and so it often just miraculously comes together.
I personally recently got the chance to talk to Brian LaRoche, who was the project manager for the new Southwest Middle School.
So what I do, my title is an owner's project manager. It's kind of a funny name. It's a state agency created the name, so we're an owner's rep in construction. A lot of architects do that particular role, and that's what I am. I'm a registered architect in the state, but not in an architecture office. I do project management representing cities and towns and private clients, building properties for them. A lot of the clients that I have, they, for example, they want a nursing home or an assisted living facility, and that's their business. They run and operate them, but they're not in the business of developing the property and creating it. So they'll hire our office to come in and find them a site, get it permitted, designed, and built.
So kind of segueing into Sterling, how were you sort of approached about the project, sort of general overview? Did you put in bids for it, or how did that?
Yeah, it's a competition. We had So the project originally went out with a different project manager to run it through the first phase up to feasibility schematic design. And then the city at that point went out and hired another project manager to run the job from that point to the end. So we were part of, I think about maybe 10 or 12 companies that submitted proposals. I believe they interviewed four companies. So we were one of the four that were interviewed, and we were hired. So I was pretty fortunate that I was able to get the assignment being a Quincy resident.
When you were there, how was the condition of the school from an architectural standpoint?
Well, the building was built in the 20s. It was started in 1926 and they opened in 1927. So, they were in really the Depression. There was, times were difficult then. So for the time period, they built the building with, inexpensively, but they did a really good job of being creative with their materials. So there are a lot of things that you would look at and you go, oh wow, that's a wood paneled wall, but then you realize no, it's a painted burlap wall.
Yeah.
But they were very ingenious and creative with how they constructed it. So the building was 90 years old or 88 years old. Any building that old is going to show its age.
Yeah.
So, and Sterling was ready for replacement. It certainly needed to be replaced.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. Is it wasn't even a renovation. We removed the old school completely and built a new one right behind it and up close to the existing.
What came as the biggest challenge to you and the people that you were working with?
I think the thing at Southwest or Sterling, they've changed the name, the hardest challenge that we could not anticipate or control was the National Grid lockout. And that was pretty unfortunate. It caused us a couple-month delay because just as we were about to turn on the heating system to the school, that's when the lockout happened. So we had all of the infrastructure connected in the street. Literally, we were missing about 15 feet of pipe and a meter. That's all we needed. And we were scheduled to have that work done the following week. So then the lockout happened and none of that. So we had to go through the entire winter without heat, which made it very challenging. So we had to provide temporary heat to finish the school.
Yeah.
And then once we couldn't open the school in April vacation like we wanted to because the boiler plant wasn't online. So we had temporary heat, but it wasn't suitable for occupying the building. So we had to wait until after the heating season was over. So the next available time we had was sort of the beginning of June when we made the move. We had to wait till all the MCAS testing were over. So that was the earliest we could move students after April vacation. So that was unfortunate, but it was beyond anyone's control, and there really was nothing that anybody could have done.
You had said that Squantum was most likely the next project, possibly. Theoretically, if it was, would you and your team be looking to put in bids again to work on future projects in Quincy?
Of course,
You guys already have a pretty good track record with Sterling.
We had a really great experience, and the team that we put together from the construction to the design team, and the city is a huge partner in the project too. We couldn't have asked for a better team. I mean, everybody just works so well together. And I'd like to think the city would want to continue that.
Yeah.
So, we'll submit a bid, and we'll be in the mix with everybody else. And for an owner's project manager, it's your qualifications-based selection. So everybody submits their qualifications, and then they're evaluated on their merits, and then they select whoever's the most, in the state's words, advantageous. So I'd like to think that we have a pretty good advantage in that we had finished a project recently, and it came out pretty good.
Really happy with it,
Yeah, it would have been on time, but for the National Grid. But other than that, we were on time.
Thank you for watching this episode of On Cue, Quincy High's community magazine show produced in partnership with Quincy Access Television. To find out more about QATV, and or how to become a member, visit www.qatv.org or call 617-376-1440.